even when she comes out of it and the one is like standing on her head and he's got like the cream of wheat and shit coming out of his mouth, like going on. It's like, oh my God, what is that? Like,
Cream of wheat.
like what is it? What is coming out? Like, like they just automatically have this like secretion coming out of it. Like, what does that do? What's purpose does that serve? Like,
Just to be gross. Just to be fucking gross.
Hello, welcome to Survivor's Ed, How to Not Die First in a Horror Movie. I'm Chris.
I'm Tawny.
I'm Miles.
And we are two blacks and a Mexican, here to talk about that time 6 women went into a cave.
A cave.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
So Survivor's Ed is our weekly podcast where we talk about movies of all kinds and really just dive into the rules for survival, particularly for our people of color in those films. This is a fun show that we really just take time to analyze the movies that we love, the movies that we enjoy, the movies we laugh at, the movies that scare us and make us think. It can run the gamut. And this week we are talking about The Descent. This is a 2005-2006 horror movie by Neil Marshall about 6 women who go into a cave and monsters are in there and it's scary and people die and it's a horror movie. I mean, and so on and so forth and likewise. I say 2005-2006 because it actually came out in the United Kingdom in 2005, came out in the States in 2006. So for our American brains, it came out in 2006. And
It didn't exist before us.
For us, it's all relative.
All right.
That's the only year that matters, Dan.
The only year that matters me came out right here in the States. So I guess we'll just start off. What is the situation with The Descent?
We have the opening sequence, the expository and a very important expository opening sequence of three of the main characters. Right, it's Beth, Sarah, and Juno, who's possibly the coolest name. In this whole, easily the coolest name in this whole movie, other than Scar.
Well, you got names like
we'll
Sarah.
Talk about.
Yeah, right.
It's almost like my college entering class. There were 75 Sarahs, 250 Catherines, and there
probably a few Beths.
Yeah, this is like the whitest, like
white.
like Beth, Sarah, Rebecca, I think it's
Sam, yeah.
Sam, like God.
Holly.
Holly, yeah. My sister's name is actually Holly.
Yeah.
Aw.
I mean, it's not exclusive to white people. You know.
Holly's the one that's a little quirky, right? Like Holly comes closest to being a person of color that's not a person of color because she's Irish.
But she drives me
Totally.
crazy. So
But,
the opening sequence is great. And part of the reason why I just wanted to camp out on it for a second because like I love how it does a good job of like setting up the character dynamics. That wordless moment between Juno, Sarah's husband, and then Sarah, and then that moment the husband has in the car right before he dies, where it's just like you can read so much in that scene without any dialogue.
And then also the dynamic of Beth, like the husband, I think his name's Paul. He like rushes to she gets pushed in the water. It's a joke.
Yep.
And then he rushes over to get her out, and he's taking her helmet off, and she's just kind of like she's soaking it up, and then maybe that's all normal, and then all of a sudden Beth, like they show Beth, right, and she looks over and she's like, So that's the sort of like core, I think that's the core emotional dynamic of the rest of the movie, right? Is that tension of that, and the way those 3 characters sort of like what their fates end up being. And of course, we have immediately Paul and the daughter, who's, I can't remember the daughter's name or if they gave her one.
Jessica.
Jessica. immediately, like there's the moment in the car where they're driving away, and the husband's sort of cold toward Sarah, and then immediately like dies viciously, like in the
horribly
on a Final Destination level of like pulls from the car in front of you driving through your head. And
that was so well like execute. Like when you see her veering off, and you as a viewer can tell what's about to happen. It's
hideous. You can see it for a few seconds coming, before it happens. And it's like, ugh, it's just, and I was reading something that was like, oh, it's so, like somebody was like, oh, that's not, like, some critic was like, oh, that's not realistic. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like, what, realistic? Like, what?
But for him to die, it's a freak accident. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Is that it's a fucking ugly, hideous freak accident that doesn't make any sense and is completely jarring. And I think it's effective in that way.
Yeah. I would be careful with saying like something is not realistic. Like maybe not common, but there was a guy that I went to high school with where he got into a car accident, and he was like he bowled. He was like a bowler, and the the bowling ball was on the seat when he he hit something, and then the bowling ball ended up like crushing his head when he was in the car. So that's so like you would not expect that to happen at all. So I mean, is it unlikely? For sure, but I mean that could happen. Like
for sure,
like, it's crazy. The thing that I don't know like how much time has passed when we get to that point, but they're doing some pretty good storytelling in a very short period of time, because just in that little opening scene of them like kayaking or whatever, is that kayaking? I don't know what I don't know. I'm black.
Like whitewater rafting. Something something I wouldn't do if you gave me $5 million. I'm like, you motherfuckers are crazy. I don't know about that whole like
white people watching this. Please sound off in the comments and let us know what that is, because I know we know but like that the story like that them get from there to them stopping, and you find out everything you need to know pretty much right there in that little window, and then like not even minutes later the husband is dead. It's like, yo, they waste no time setting this up, and it actually works perfectly to me. Like I have no complaints. And I think the fun thing about this movie is like I didn't know anything about it. I had never seen a preview for it, never even heard of it, honestly. And I just happened to be like watching TV or something one day, and it was just on. And if you don't know what this movie is about and you watch it, this is a treat. Like if you have, because I was just kind of into the dynamic of them being stuck in this cave. Like that was freaking me out. Like just that alone. And then when they introduce like it's people, these things down here, I'm like, whoa, what the hell? Like I wasn't expecting that. I thought the movie was about them getting stuck in this cave.
As if the claustrophobia was not enough. And that fucking scene where I'm like, the first time I watched that, I was like,
yeah. So the scene where Sarah gets stuck in that tight passageway, and I think it's Beth that's right ahead of her, and she sort of has to talk her through it. I think the three of us had the text exchange of like the anxiety of that scene, and I always have to ask myself like this movie and that scene is always when I ask myself, am I claustrophobic? Because I am.
I definitely am. I am for sure. Like
you are, yeah.
If anything, like if there's anything I'm afraid of, like I'm not really afraid of heights. Like I'm not afraid of spiders or snakes, but like, being inside somewhere and not being able to get out, like not even be able to move. Like if you ever, like I remember one time I made this stupid ass mistake when I was like in my 20s of going to Universal City Walk on New Year's Eve, and like you could not move. Like it was like shoulder to shoulder, and I started like freaking the fuck out. So I'm like, I was like, I can't move. And I'm like, I don't know how people do this. I don't like, and this is one of the reasons I'm like, I'm not a big like concert goer. Like I don't want people touching me. I don't want people near me. Like I don't want to be able to not move.
See, I don't have it in those circumstances. Like I mean, concerts are like annoying just because the amount of I don't like a lot of people, but I think like if the idea of not being able to move my arms for some reason is frightening to me. Like I remember like as a kid, I don't know, playing with one of my cousins or something, and you go into a box or a basket or something, and you go under, and like your cousin won't let you from out of there, where they sitting on top of it. I remember just freaking out underneath there because I could not move.
Yeah.
Like the air is like, it's harder to breathe. Like I like tight like spaces like that. Yeah, that freaks me out.
Yeah. No, I it's funny because I don't think I actually have that fear, but that scene still gives me enormous anxiety. Like I have a fear, like I think it's one of those things where there's fears that you have that you may or may not have like any sort of irrational fear or phobia about a thing, but because of just the human survival element, like I don't really have a fear of heights, but if I'm standing on the top of like something with no rails and it's like really far, I'm not going close to the edge. And like it's I don't think it's because like, oh, I'm afraid of heights. It's just like there's a part of you that's like, it doesn't matter who you are, there's some part of you that feels something. And I think that scene actually does a good job of like, because you can tell like in that scene, like Sarah can get through, right? Like you can visibly tell that she could get through. It's not like she can't move. It's like she has this moment where she suddenly can't breathe and everything feels tight. And like, that's why Beth has to sort of talk her through it, is because like, it's not like Sarah's no larger than any of the other women there. There's no reason to believe that she's actually unable to get through. It's just the mental, the psychological moment.
Right. That whole, like, let's talk about the descent, right? Like the descent into the fucking despair and the darkness and the madness, right? Like that's what it's like, Heart of Darkness shit. And there's I saw like there was some article online that compared that moment where she emerges from that like mysterious red vomit liquid, like that blood vomit, like whatever it is.
The cover image,
right, and that's like the scene where Martin Sheen like comes up out of the water in Apocalypse Now, and it's like this like, okay, I've just like, she emerges from this like crucible of like shit, and she decides she's just gonna be insane. Like,
you know what? I'm gonna just be insane.
Just gonna be insane. Like in that, and that's sort of the note, that we end on. I think is like
which is technically like ridiculous, but it feels so earned. Like I'm with it. Like, now I don't have time for anything now but to survive and make it out of here. Like it works.
Up.
Yeah, it works so well. And like the direction that she goes from that point, and that water, I don't know if I'm assuming,
she's all,
and I'm assuming that it is just a lot of blood. But I mean, aren't they're like shitting in that too, right? Like, or is that the second movie? I can't remember. Like,
I don't listen to talk about this.
I think it's the second movie. I think it's the second movie, but maybe
substance that's like coating the top of it that just makes it look disgusting, like makes it look like sewage. But she goes down and she gets separated from everybody, and she's separated because they find each other, right? Like everybody gets separated. There's the scene where like, the things attack, and what's really interesting about these creatures, and every time I watch it, I'm sort of taken aback, is that they're actually really fragile. Like they're not hard to, like they're not that hard to. They're vicious and they're feral, and they're gonna come at you with everything they have, but they're not especially tough.
They're not these like superhuman strength type of things. They're more like, so like Juno, golems.
Like in the in the beginning, like I mean, even Gollum is fucking tough. Like they talk about like you can't fucking, that guy's like made out of sinew. But like these guys are just, they're weak, and like Juno kills one almost easily just with her bare hands, almost. Like at the first,
She was
And so-
scrapping with that dude. Like, I think
She
that's
was
why I have a
fucking
hard time like really hating Junos, because I can
I
tell
don't
you're supposed
hate
to.
Juno.
She makes
I
a lot
don't.
of
Yeah.
messed up decisions and does a lot of things
Yeah.
that make her earn the disdain that she gets from the rest of the group. But like when she's scrapping with like right from jump, she's like the like the mom, like we talked about the mom from Gremlins, like
Yeah.
you just
She's
get into that
capable,
situation and you just start handling. She
Yeah.
was like,
like,
hey,
"I'm
come
not
catch
gonna
these
die."
hands, because she, and
Yeah.
it's a moment because like Holly is obviously, she feels responsible for Holly, and when that monster's out, when Holly's already dead, but when he's trying to drag her off, and Juno's like, nah, and they have that scrap, and Juno kills it. It's like I was on her side, and I up until that point, it's just like, yeah, I know I'm not supposed to like Juno because she's just doing she's done so many things.
But she's so dope though.
Yeah.
Like at the same time, I guess the initial part where I'm not on her side is when they get down there and then they discover that she's like she lied to them, and this is not the cave. Yeah, this is not the cave that they were supposed to go to. This is some new cave that she wants them to all discover together. I'm like, bitch, no. Okay,
you don't do that.
no, I don't want to do that.
Nobody knows we're down here. Could you have left?
What?
Could you have fucking left a post-it with the information with
Like,
someone?
At the
Was
very
somebody-
least,
Anyone? Like, you didn't have to inform the caving authorities, whoever they are.
Man, like,
They're
come
like,
on,
you didn't
man.
let the caving people know, and I'm like, there's a system of cave people who know when everyone's done.
that's
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 like
where she lost me. That's where she lost me initially. I was like, nope.
yeah.
That whole time, like I would have had an attitude towards her, like from that point forward. Like she would have been saying
Holy
stuff, and I just wouldn't have been responding or nothing. Like,
yeah.
all bitchy,
Like
whatever. Yeah.
every time she talks, she just look over here.
you like, oh my god, like she ain't even saying nothing to you when you in the corner. She ain't even talking to you and you pissed off.
But that is what they were doing. Like some of them was just like, nah. I mean, but we'll get more into Juno in a little bit, I know. So, but I mean, I have to talk about the cinematography too, because this
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
the filming is so cool. Like there's so much good use. Like the red of the flares that they're setting off,
Yeah.
being kind of the light source and adding to the sort of dread. It was so cool. The misleading sort of outside
Phosphorescence.
light and stuff,
Yeah.
and like it just creates such a sense of genuine tension where you're like, it feels endless. Like the caves feel endless, and like every single scene, there's these great wide shots. you
Like
know.
endless and unremarkable, like undistinct from each other, which is the most
Right.
terrifying thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they
that's-
say I forget who says it, but I feel like they say at some point that they're like 2 miles or something down. I may be wrong, but I feel like somebody said that. I don't know if it was Juno, where she's like, we're 2 miles below something. Like 2 miles?
Yeah.
Like
It's not even. I can't even
Yo.
conceive of that.
it-
Get
that-
stop. Get a new hobby.
Yeah, like why is
Like,
this
what are you
fun? Like,
doing?
listen, again, we already kicked it off with the whitewater rafting. Nope, not interested. And then you talking about cave that you combining two things that I have zero interest with, which is cave diving, not interested, and then also some form of rock climbing where you gotta get across these, like you have to scale these catacombs and walls down
Oh
here
my
and like
gosh.
hanging from your life. Like, yo, why is this fun?
When,
It's not fun.
Listen, when
get it
what's her name,
either.
Rebecca, when she was doing that, the hooks in the top of the cave,
Oh my God.
man.
trying to establish the things which the scene is dope. Like the way that scene is so cool to me. It's so unique, like to the whole setup. But like while I'm watching her do that, I'm like, wait, so. But no matter what cave you went to, you were prepared to do some stuff like this, like where you're literally
Yeah.
like monkey swinging on this cave and then putting these things in there and hooking it in, as you go type of stuff where I'm just like,
That's fucking amazing, that scene,
that's
for sure.
wild. And like it was such another wordless kind of reveal in terms of her doing the one and there was already a hook in there. And it just tells us so much as viewers where you're like, oh, like and it was cool how like as they kind of discover it and have the conversation about it, and then more is revealed of like this, nobody uses this anymore. This is over 100 years old. It's like, oh shoot, like it's just so cool, like how they did the script of this movie. I think is really good. I think that's what I'm getting at. Is that just the way it's written, characters speak things that need to be spoken. There are some like a little bit of clunky exposition in the cabin when they first all meet up, and they kind of introduce like Rebecca's younger sister, and they have to like you know there's some like awkward dialogue there of like you're my little sister, you know, like stuff like that. but for the most part, there's so many moments where what doesn't need to be said isn't said, but you still get it as a viewer. Good stuff.
I think one of the ones where I sort of what I never really thought about was when like they killed the one. And I guess that's Scar. I don't know like which one that is.
I think so. That's my best
So
guess.
for the viewers or listeners' sake, we were all just marveling at the fact that at the end of the movie in the credits, one of the creatures is inexplicably named Scar in the credits, and we definitely know that this was not established in the film itself.
Long live the king.
We're trying to work around like who's Scar? How should we know it's Scar? And were there scars to speak of?
So I guess I'm guessing that was him. I don't know that they killed.
When I was watching it, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna pay attention to this.
I'm looking for Scar.
Right.
Because this needs to make sense at some point. But like they were like, and this is one of those kind of silly moments, and we have these in a lot of horror
That's what
movies,
I was gonna say,
right?
like where they're like she's explaining,
Juno's like, what am I looking at, Sam? And I'm like, okay, this bitch is a medical student. She's not an evolutionary biologist, for fuck's sake. Like, what the fuck does she know about what she's looking at? And they're like, oh, this creature has evolved this way. And I'm like, I could have told you that. I'm having an English major. Yeah. But
that doesn't translate, okay? Like that, what you do in your regular job does not translate to this.
And he kind of had like a thing like going across, and so I was like, oh, I bet that's it.
Like a Kylo Ren situation.
He had a little like thing like that, and I was like, I bet that's it, because that's really the only creature we get any sort of prolonged look at. Like everybody else is just like, and then they're out of the scene.
Yeah.
That was a very good imitation of what happens.
Yeah.
Like a weird hissing, like on the wall.
That sound, like whatever the sound design too. I remember you brought up is really good. Like it's so eerie and just creepy.
Yeah.
Like because when the first time, what's the main Sarah? That's the main. Yeah. When she first is like just in that area, like hearing the sounds for the first time, it's so. Like that's first of all, I'm in a cave. That's number one. That's strike one. I'm 2 miles
being in a cave,
supposedly 2 miles underground. That's a whole nother strike in itself. And you hear whatever the hell that little clicking sound is. No, nope. That was back up,
and that was well done too. Was like what I like is that. So we watched this movie for the first time with my son about a year ago, a little over a year. We watch a lot of horror movies around Halloween, and my oldest son has been sort of forcing himself to watch horror movies to kind of be less afraid of them. And this one was interesting, was because that first whole segment, there's a few little kind of jump scare type things, like when Sarah's looking out the window and the thing goes. She has the dream sequence where the thing goes through her head and stuff, and things like that. But when they first reveal the creatures, they don't seem that scary. Like there's a little kind of eerie scene where it looks almost Gollum-like, and then it like kind of scampers off. And then there's that weird like scene where it's just standing there like kind of drooling. And those are the couple of times you see them. But that moment when they use the night vision thing, and she's looking around and there's one right there, that like he yelled, he's gonna be mad at me for sharing this, but he just screamed, "Turn it off!"
That's a great scene. Like
And he
that,
spent the rest of the movie sitting right between me and my wife on the couch. And,
Oh my god, that's funny.
it's just so well said.
it's a really excellent review because I was like watching and at that point is where, or right before that, I think it's 45 minutes into the movie where the story is just about them trying to get out this cave, and we are literally at like I think 45 to 46 minutes, and it's not a long movie. We're literally at about like 45 minutes, and then you see that you're like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
This took a whole nother, because I like when they first show, and I was paying attention that a lot of times when they were revealing the creatures, they didn't do the normal, the sound effect, the jump scare sound effect. They would just show them.
Yeah.
And then they would be reacting to it. Like they wouldn't do any type of sound.
I love
effect
that
or
kind of
anything
stuff. Yeah.
to signal you that there's something there. I could see that there's something there, and I like that. I thought that was like, yeah. I thought that worked even more.
Just like the emphasis on like the visual creepiness, right? Like the visual creepiness of like something skittering into view that's potentially threatening, and like having it not have something announce it sonically, like that's creepy.
Yeah, it is creepy. And then I mean they look creepy. I mean they're
gross.
They're like pale. It's just skin like they're deformed obviously. Like they're I mean what did she say? They're fully evolved to live down or something, whatever. Like
I don't know what you're talking about.
how did you even get any of that information?
She
just
touches
looking
his
at
face
him?
3 times. Fully evolved.
Yeah. They use sound to like how you know that? How you know? I don't even know her name. What was her name? I don't even remember her name.
I think that's Sam. Is that Sam? The doctor?
Yeah, the doctor's saying.
She has a weird accent. She's got something else going on.
The
She's the one
Sam who had the most like theatrical of the deaths.
Yeah.
Because she had the whole like
on the line.
it's just so like it's so funny. You know what's interesting is like that scene is really cool. Like that set piece is really cool the way it plays out. But it almost felt like the death that was meant to be like the cover image. You know what I mean, of the film. Like, and it to me doesn't quite, because of that, it takes me a little bit out of it, because I'm like, why'd she all dramatic like that? You know, because everybody else kind of just gets offed, which I think is cool.
Or
like,
gets their intestines eaten. Like I think her sister, like in the very next scene,
she
right?
got she just gets
eviscerated.
eaten. And I think those are way more frightening and way more effective, you know.
Yeah. I was gonna say I also didn't understand like what she was doing. Like she was up there, she had the knife in her hand or whatever, and then she like puts the knife in her mouth or whatever, and I don't know. It was just a weird like
the way it was cut. There was like a bunch of cuts.
Yeah.
And then she's just dead. And it was like, at first I was like, did she kill herself? Like, no, he killed her. But like, yeah, there was a weirdness to that whole sequence where I was just like, what's happening? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because it looked like she was going to try to stab him, and then she was like, no. And then put the knife in her mouth. I was like, what is this plan? Like,
Right.
I was like, all right. I just didn't understand like what the strategy was.
Jason
Like,
tries to kiss me, he gonna get this knife.
right. And then who didn't some like was
This
it
is
Juno that jumped down after that? Like
This is when we're like, and this is what I appreciate about this movie is like once it starts, it's fucking just thing after thing. Like there's not long stretches of like no one dying. Like, and this is the end sequence when we're about to get to the point where it's just Sarah and Juno.
Yep.
And this is basically the movie wiping everyone else out before we get to that point. And at this point, Sarah's already talked to Beth. By the way, I think Juno is unfairly blamed for Beth. Like, if I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Beth fucking sneaks up on her. Like, she's in a fucking killing frenzy. How are you going to come up on someone with the fucking who's wielding a pickaxe or whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah, like
just-
what are you doing?
Get the fuck away! Like I don't blame her at all. And then she's like, she just leaves her, and I'm like, yeah, she's gonna die. She's bleeding out through her neck. There's nothing to be done. Like,
and there's
there?
monsters. What am I supposed
Well,
to do?
let's
Like,
use that as a segue because I think we're just gonna get there anyway. Let's get to our segment. You good, homie? And this is where we check in on our people of color. And we did have a conversation about this. And while Juno, actress Natalie Mendoza, is of a great many ethnic backgrounds, among those is Filipino and Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
She is definitely the least white person in this movie.
Yes, absolutely, clearly.
And there's her story in this movie is very unique to the rest of the group as well, in which she's very clearly meant to be the villainous kind of character in a lot of ways, of the group at least. She's painted as in a very negative light through some of her choices and actions early on in the movie, and what plays out between her and Sarah. So, but let's. I like where you were going, Tawny. Like, let's talk about the characterization of Juno.
I find her, and I think this is one of the most. I mean, this is one of the things that makes the movie so interesting, is that you have this character. She's the only person that looks that she's not a white lady. Like, and I don't. Again, however the actress identifies, I'm not sure, but like she does it like, you know, she stands out in that way. Her name is Juno, right?
Right.
Like, she's the most competent.
And she's alongside Sarah, Beth, Rebecca, Sam, Holly.
Yeah.
Holly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just like Juno. And she's the most competent, she's the most capable, she's the most strong and badass. And once the monsters show up, she's the most ass kicking. But she and this is the thing that we learn right in the beginning, is like she's messing around with her bestie's husband. Right? And so that's, and I talked about betrayal, the second betrayal. So that's the first betrayal. And then the second betrayal is the fucking fact that she leads them out into this death trap with no like no way out, and
Which I would
coming.
argue is the worst betrayal.
I would agree with that. Like,
Agreed.
And I'm,
Yeah. This is the one that will
Absolutely.
get you killed.
the one
Yeah,
that's gonna get you
exactly.
killed. And it's not her fault that the husband dies. It's not her fault that the child dies. Like, she's not, but it's not literally that, but somehow the juxtaposition of those scenes sets it up as though it is. There's
Yeah.
a connection between that hideous event and the thing that we just saw. And even though it's not literally like one led to another, like in the mind of the viewer or whatever, or the reader, like those two things are conjoined, even though she really didn't have anything to do with the death of those people and the great tragedy that happened to Sarah. And there's that scene, and I love where when Sarah's stuck in the thing and she's freaking out, and Beth tells her the worst thing that could happen to you has already happened.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Like, I think of that not because I've ever been stuck in a cave, but like that's good wisdom sometimes. Like, the worst thing that could already happen's already happened, so fucking chill out and let's get through it and survive and all that. But like,
That seems great.
Juno didn't do that, but there is, like, the movie makes a connection between, you know, that thing that we see in the exposition, the expository scene, the opening expository scene, and the stuff that comes later, and then expounds upon her untrustworthiness with the fact that she fucking leads her friends into this death trap. It's really the second betrayal, but it's really sort of part of the first. I feel like it's there to accentuate that she is a person who can't be trusted, which is what Beth tells Sarah, which I actually think is unfair because it's Beth's fucking fault. She gets arsed in the throat with a pickaxe.
Yeah, like it seems like from that point too, like Beth, from that opening scene, like of the beginning of the movie, Beth has an issue with her, like because she can see like she, you know, what she's doing or whatever with the other one's friend, and she's like, okay, she's foul. Like she already has an issue with her to begin with. Again, why you walking up on me while I'm trying to survive, killing monsters? That I don't feel that's such a shocking scene too, because you the first time I saw that, I was expecting it was just another thing walking up on her, and maybe it was gonna get her. I don't know. I have no
Beth
idea.
Doing?
Yeah,
How
what
are you
doing?
like you just
walking
saw
up all
her?
slow, creepy and shit.
If I'm Beth in this situation, and it's my POV, I'm seeing Juno going ham on this creature with this thing. Now, my thought isn't, let me go up there and grab her shoulder
Sneak
Slowly.
up
quietly.
from behind.
Like, never that. I don't do that to people on a regular day.
Nope.
Definitely not while fighting cave monsters.
Look,
come
I
on.
literally announced, because like I'm notoriously in my house like a quiet walker, I guess. Like I can sneak up on people easily.
Yeah.
And not on purpose. I'm not even trying to. Somebody will be in the kitchen and I'll walk in there, grab something out the refrigerator, walk out, and they'll never know I was in there at all. So I'm like, when they're in there and they're facing the other way, I'm like, I'm coming in here. I'm walking in because I know you're going to be scared if you turn around and like, yo, just announce that you walking up on me. Like, why would you like, and specifically in this scenario, what are you doing?
Come on,
and then
Beth.
she like blamed her, like
I
she did this to
know.
me as if she did it on purpose.
Right.
Like
It's accident.
She left me here. I'm like, what was she gonna do? She poked your throat out. You're gonna die. Like I don't understand. And this is something I don't understand in a lot of these movies when it's like, we got to go back for so and so. I'm like, that motherfucker's dead. Like someone's good as dead.
he
You
dead.
that's gone. We're done. Like it's over now. Like move on. I would forgive you if you just let me go. Survive.
That's the thing. Like, if you were to sort of dial back and sort of track, and that's what's to me what is really good about this movie too, is you can like characters don't really, aside from Beth in that moment, characters don't really make decisions that don't make sense. They make bad decisions in some cases, but the decisions don't like take me out of the movie because the way the characters are built, you start to get it. Like, for example, when Holly like freaks out and starts running because she thinks that there's an exit. Like that was up to that point. It's like, yeah, like by the way she was behaving up to that point, it made sense that she made that decision, even though it was a poor one. And for Juno, I think what's interesting about her character is that I see a version of this movie where you could be following her as a protagonist and she becomes a very tragic character, because I see her as an emotionally immature person at the beginning of the movie. Like she has clearly developed this illicit relationship with Sarah's husband, who we don't fully know the kind of like what's the backstory behind how this came to be, who, you know, what was going on there. And so you can kind of separate yourself from that, because to me, like, for some reason that just doesn't hit me as like, okay, I shouldn't like her. Look at what she's doing. Because I guess there's just so many layers to how an affair can happen. And so I'm like, okay. And then the cave thing, like she rationalizes it as her attempt to sort of use adventure to bring them together, which again, a very immature way to do that. But like, it's like, okay, she's clearly somebody who has a lack of maturity and is sort of not thinking things through.
Yeah.
Sort of very impulsive, very and that sort of shows up in a lot of her actions up to that point. She's also a survivor. And I think that shows up in right from jump when the monsters show up. Her fight or flight is fight. And so like all those things to me make her an interesting character who in some version of this story really got like screwed over.
No, she's absolutely like because you really like and I read a couple of reviews and it's just like you can't help but be impressed by her. She's completely like competent and badass, and she's the one who sort of knows how to get out of it. But again, there's like the fact that she's the one. It's her fault, really, that they're in this situation. Like it's 100% her fault. you know, like whatever else happens and whatever other horrible decisions made and whoever other's hand is cut open by the worst rope burn that you've ever seen.
Oh my God, that rope burn.
And then they show it and I'm like, don't fucking show me that. I don't need to see it.
It was so gaping.
the
I'm like, how are y'all
worst
just
thing.
bandaging that up? Like, her
Let
hand
go. Let her go. Like, you don't need the rope burn of that. But she's she
yeah.
makes hideous decisions, but is still somehow like super competent. And then what's interesting is the way she goes out is like Sarah doesn't hit her through the jugular. She doesn't hit her in the chest. She hits her in like the kneecap or something, right? Like it's like right in the leg. And so it's this thing of like crippling her, but still maybe giving her the opportunity to fight her way out, which I think is sort of interesting. Like, and at that point, Sarah has emerged from her Martin Sheen Apocalypse Now moment, has decided to go completely fucking ham. And it's like, even though Juno gets her out of the fucking shit she's in, she's like, I can't help but pay you back for that shit, bitch. And she gets her right in the knee.
See, I read that scene differently, a little bit differently. Like, I thought she was sort of trying to give Juno a worse fate in a way by crippling her and allowing those monsters to kill her. Because I feel like it would have been mercy to just kill her. But I guess you're right. There is the possibility that she was like giving her a chance in a way. But in my head, I'm just like, dang, you just like kneecapped her. And there's like a room full of monsters. Like,
yeah, I guess you're right. That is a possible reading. I feel like Juno's so badass at that point.
Yeah, it was almost like some level of respect that I know you could possibly handle yourself. Like
that's what I was thinking for whatever reason.
yeah. Okay, well, the majority might rule in this case, but
and I mean, that's not really how I viewed it, though. I mean, I could see that. I viewed it as her like, yo, nah, this is payback type of, which, I don't know if that's like a equal like trade. Like, I mean, she didn't kill like your husband or your kid.
Sarah's the only character to intentionally, for all intents and purposes,
but that's the whole thing. She goes down into the fucking pit of despair.
Yeah.
And she comes back out a complete murderer. Like coated in blood, like coated in whatever that red shit is, and then coated in blood when she and Juno are fighting the cave people off together.
Cave people.
The Flintstones. The fucking Flintstones.
If we're rounding out how Juno did in this situation, I mean, obviously, like, the movie, it's ambiguous, but like not good.
Yeah, and I mean, she even, I feel like even prior to that, tried to redeem her, because before that, she's the one that says we have to find Sarah. I can't leave without Sarah, and I feel like that's a part of her guilt or whatever for obviously cheating. You know,
she's trying to. Absolutely.
Yeah, she's trying to fix things, yeah.
There's a scene where, like, early on where, like, Sarah's like, I wish you, like, wouldn't treat me like I'm so fragile or whatever. And she's like, I asked you for this. Like, Sarah tells Juno, like, so apparently, like, Sarah's the one who asked Juno to put this trip together. Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't, like, you know, and so Juno's trying to do her best and trying to make it really meaningful, but at the same time is repeating mistakes that are maybe in her character to make, which are those of like being less than honest, you know, being overly aggressive, being like somebody who's you know. And I think there's a funny line, like when they're the night like before they head out, where they're all together and they're seeing each other, a lot of them for the first time in a while, and nobody knows Holly. And Holly is introduced to Sarah as Juno's protege. And then, like, I think it's Rebecca that says, like, I always thought that Juno would eat her young. Mm-hmm. Like, and so it's just like, Juno's not nurturing. She's not somebody who really is soft.
She's hard. Yeah.
She's hard. She's aggressive, and that's she's fucking hard.
And got body and shit.
And she's not somebody. She's not. She was never gonna be like. And Sarah had that facet of her where she was like a mother and a wife. Mm-hmm. And also there's the reference to that Holly makes when she's like, she says something like, "Oh yeah, well what that's like thrill seeking," and she makes this reference to like past trips that Juno and Sarah have taken together, where Sarah has clearly been, at least as thrill seeking and adventurous as Juno, but like at some point in her life maybe shifted over. And so that when we're at the end and all we have left is Sarah and Juno, it's like Sarah's back in like Juno mode. Right, like she's like she doesn't have a family anymore. She doesn't have her daughter or her husband. Like she's completely feral, and she goes back to like whatever it was that. And I think they show the photo, but it's like whatever, who can tell? But like like Holly comments, like there's this badassery in Sarah that we see emerge at the end after she comes out of that pool of shit, and she's ready to let Juno have it. Sorry, that is so gross.
Tony cannot let that go.
I mean, it is. And then even so that, gross. I guess we going back now, but like that, even when she comes out of it and the one is like standing on her head and he's got like the cream of wheat and shit coming out of his mouth, like going on. It's like, oh my God. Ugh. What is that? Like, cream of wheat. Like what is coming out? Like, yo, like they just automatically have this like secretion coming out of it. Like, what does that do? What purpose does that serve? Like,
just to be gross, just to be fucking gross.
So what's the rule, y'all?
So what I had said in the text was don't break girl code. The thing that gets Juno killed is that she fucking lies to her friends. She lies to Sarah, like it's a betrayal. Like it's not that she's necessarily even cheating or whatever with someone who's married, but like it's that it's her fucking friend, And then secondly, that she fucking lies to her friends again. So like don't break girl code. Like don't fucking lie to your friends. Don't try to get around shit with and then with Beth, right? Like what maybe she could have done, even though in all practical fucking shit, like if it were me, I would be like, sorry dude, you're dead. I gotta go. Like I'll like, if you want, I'll kill you mercifully here before the monsters come to eat you. But like she lies about that too. And she could have easily just told the truth.
That moment, and there was there was a beat in that moment, and like
she was like trying to give her an opportunity, like an opportunity to tell the truth,
or to be like, I'm so sorry, I'm fucking sorry. She can never say it. She never says it.
That's it. That's the emotional immaturity thing too, because like it's almost like a parent and child situation. Like when you give your kids a chance to fess up to something they did, and. Actually, me and my wife were talking about that with our son, about how much that reminded us of him when, like, we catch him in a lie. And it's like, you're very clearly asking a question that, like,
you know the answer
and you saw her die? It's like, that's the most kid, the way Juno responds is childlike. And she sort of retreats into herself. And it makes you just wonder, like, to me, the layers to her character just imply trauma. Like she's a survivor, and like it shows up in the fact that she her lies are to protect herself. She's not like the liar who does it to sort of bolster their
or maliciously sets out. Like she doesn't maliciously set out to be dishonest. It's just like she's gonna lie to, like you said, protect herself.
Yeah,
it does. It ruins her in the end.
Did you guys? I don't know if like I've heard people talk about. I know you guys were. I got cut out when you guys were talking about the ending, and it's like I've heard people say that there's like supposedly she never made it out or something. Is that supposed to be what that ending is? Yeah, is that she never made it out?
So when you watched, what's the last thing you saw? We need to talk about that. I think we saw 3 different versions of the movie. Like what?
So, okay. So the one that I just watched, and I haven't watched this movie for a while from start to finish. The one that I just watched, Sarah makes it out. She pops up through the ground. She drives into the car and she's driving all crazy. And then she like stops at some point, and then the ghost of Juno appears, and then it's like credits.
Yeah. That's the only version I've seen.
There's okay, go for it, Chris.
So I watched the unrated version, which I didn't know was that different. But that all happens, and then Sarah wakes up in the cave, and she then sees her daughter, and she has this vision of her daughter, and it pans out almost like the opening of Hereditary.
Yeah.
It pans out, does the opposite. It starts off and it gets really big, and you just see the cave walls, and they get smaller and smaller, and then it goes to credits. And so,
and isn't it her with like a birthday cake or like a birthday cake and a candle?
Yeah, it's like it's a vision, and like I think the shot shows just how deep she actually is in the cave. That there's no way she's getting out.
Oh damn, that's like way more.
Yeah.
I mean the ending like with her in the car is like such a like what the fuck ending, like yo, what just happened? Like not only like it started off like with just you being lost underground, then it turned into a monster movie, then at the end it turned to a ghost movie
situation.
Like what just happened?
But I actually think both endings kind of work, because like the idea of her getting out but being haunted by what she did kind of works. I mean, it doesn't really fit, like to her to have that vision doesn't fully fit, but it kind of does in the sense that she was having visions at the beginning of her daughter and husband's death. So like it kind of fits. So I think both endings kind of work in a way. One's just a lot more hopeless and sad.
Well, I think the idea is like she chooses madness, which is what, like she emerges and she fucking makes the choice to do this thing to this other person for no other reason other than like revenge and personal like
catharsis.
Catharsis. And it's like now she has to contend with with all of that, like with and it's just, I think that was like one of the the metaphor of the fucking cave in the first place, or whatever, is like just and the fucking name of the movie is not just it's not just about going down into these caves. It's like going down into the fucking ugliest, deepest, most nasty part of yourself, and like what do you get, like what do you come back with after you have plumbed those depths? And what she comes out with is like, I'm gonna kill motherfuckers, like I'm gonna get revenge on people who've wronged me. And now there's that to contend with. Is one version of the ending. The one where she's sitting with her daughter maybe is just like, I'm stuck here forever in this despair.
Yeah, that's true.
That's heavy. And I mean, it's like ultimately it's like how you react to hitting rock bottom. And her reaction,
literally.
she actually chooses the wrong choice, I think. Like like she doesn't, like
she kills her best ally.
The moment. I don't think that's the right choice. Like so she literally breaks.
Who's been trying to save you relentlessly, maybe not fully to your knowledge, but she's been doing that, That's wild. This movie is heavy, y'all.
This movie is fire, man. Like it's really good.
It's really good. All those beautiful, like I was watching it, like there are so many like all the different colors. There's like the red scene, and then there's like some scenes with Juno where it's green, and then there are some scenes where like the cave's sort of lit up and it's yellow. And then like they're like when they want to just really throw you off, the camera's like on this angle, and then they'll go like this, and you're just like, it's so like disorienting and gross and like jarring, and makes you feel completely the claustrophobia, like of a situation like that. Like, and God, like I don't even know like how they do it like on a technical level, because I think you guys are much better at noticing those technical sort of points than I am. But like what a completely immersive experience in terms of just like being thrown off and feeling like you're stuck somewhere tiny and like everything's closed in. It does that so well, like from beginning to end.
Yeah, it does. And I was saying, like, I just love like that usage of like the practical lights is amazing. Specifically, I am not recommending this movie, but if you go watch the second one, you will see why this, like, the way they lit this is perfect. The way they light the second one is like you could tell there's lighting. Like everything, you can see everything. You can see the caves. It looks like there's like movie set lighting in there. And it actually feels like they are lighting this with fire. They lit this scene with an actual torch, it seems like. And maybe they did some.
I think that's what I read, was that the director
I think they did use
it was practical
lighting.
light. Yeah.
That's so brilliant.
And it's tricky to shoot like that with that, because it's an extremely dark movie. And but not dark like some movies. I've seen movies where it's like I can't see anything that's going on because it's the way. And it's not even because they shot it with practical light. It's just because for whatever reason they edited it and they made it dark as hell for some reason. This movie is shot in the dark and using only flames and little, you know, I don't know what those green lights they use, the flares and stuff like that. Yeah, it's only lit using those, and like you can still
night
really
vision.
And it's so perfectly done though, because it shows you just enough for you to not really be able to see the space that you're in, but only see still how claustrophobic it is. Like, it's perfect.
Fantastic movie. Like, and one that I forget about. Like, when I'm naming or thinking about great horror movies, I'm like, this one easily slips my mind for some reason, and it's so good. Like, the performances are fabulous. The sound is great. The cinematography is beautiful. Everything's so good about it. I don't know why I don't think of it more often, and why I don't watch it more often.
Well, it's interesting. I was looking up Neil Marshall because he wrote and directed it, and he hasn't done a ton of things that are of note in the movie space. He did the most recent remake of Hellboy, which I heard was not great. But he has directed some of the best, some really good episodes of Game of Thrones and like Westworld and stuff. And so he's definitely still using that eye. It's just interesting that we haven't gotten to see more. You know, this seems to be the big one that a lot of people still know him for.
Yeah, it's definitely underrated for sure. Like, I feel like I've seen this movie actually quite a bit. In fact, when I put it on, my wife was like, "You watching that again? You got to watch it again." I was like, "Man, I'm trying to, you know, I got to refresh myself because I don't know, like."
Yeah, no, for sure. I have to do that. Yeah. We all have to do that every time. Like, I'm like, okay, I haven't seen this for a while. I don't want to miss anything important.
Yeah, exactly. Because you lose, you know, you start to. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's true. Well, I had a lot of fun talking about this movie as usual. You know,
I've been wanting to talk about this one for a minute. Like,
yeah, like it was just, man, when y'all said this, The Descent, I was like, yes. Yeah. There's some movies I have to sort of, my kids, that I have to, this is the, it's like, nope, there's no construction work happening, just my kids jumping on the bed. But
mine aren't here. That's the only reason you don't hear them fucking acting crazy in the background.
But yeah, no, this is a blast to talk about. If you want to like actually join our Instagram, follow us on Instagram, 2BXM Podcast, and throw us some suggestions. As this show's been up for a few weeks now, and we've really had a lot of fun doing it. Please feel free to like suggest things to us on there. Suggest things in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. What movies should we talk about? We have a long list, but we are happy to consider all kinds of different scary movies to talk about because we have a lot of fun doing it. This is Survivor's Ed, How to Not Die First in a Horror Movie. Please review us, rate us on Apple Podcasts, check us out on Spotify, all the places you can find podcasts, and really just join this community and be a part of the conversation. We'll see you next time.